Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to some RimWorld. I'd like to apologize for my last video because my mic volume was so quiet, and the reason that was is because I didn't have my filter on, which really sucks. So, apologize once again. Hope you'll forgive me for that. And if not, that's okay, because you can do what you want. Anyway, we're going to continue with our guide. I think I have, this is our current save game here. Where we just last episode we just went over kind of the biomes, some rudimentary game mechanics, things like that. And this episode we're going to be doing some planning for sure. I'm not sure if I'll go beyond planning, but anyway, I would like to do this right, so I should have my notes open here. So I'm just gonna bring these up. Should have brought these up before, but I did not because I'm not perfect and I'm pretty newbie when it comes to streaming and stuff like that still. So especially because I don't do it that often. Okay, yes. So we're going to be doing some all around planning today. Oops. Okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you come into your new little world over here is you're going to want to kind of seek out where you want your base to be. Now, I think we're on flat terrain, so we don't have a lot of these hills here. That's what these are. So, like, you got to think of this, it's a top-down perspective, okay? Just like Dwarf Fortress, we've got, you know, trees and everything, but you can actually tell what things are. But I'm not ripping on Dwarf Fortress. I actually love that game. I have never gotten far in it, but it's not as complicated as people like to make it out to be. Anyway, but that's a different game. This is a very different game with a similar kind of genre. Okay, so things to consider. I like to build my base outwards, okay? So I like to build my base outwards like this. So see how I'm drawing this rectangle here? This is kind of like how I like it. Either that or like this. In this particular world, it makes more sense to build like this because we just have more area width-wise. I guess we could say that's width-wise. This lengthwise, I guess. Anyway, horizontal, more horizontal room. So that's something that you're going to want to consider. You typically want to build near the middle, like where your people land, just to reduce the amount of walking that you're going to have to be doing, because a lot of your resources that spawn, like this wood, this steel, will spawn close to where your characters are going to spawn, which they're going to come out of these pods here. Anyway, so another thing that you're going to want to consider is where your steam geysers are. Steam geysers are super important. You're really going to want to build near them because that is where your main power supply is going to be. I have never seen guinea pigs before, and I have no idea if they're a new thing since one of the newer updates or what, but I've never seen these before. They look kind of cute. I'm sure we'll hunt them and eat their guts. But anyway, this is a steam geyser right here. So we're going to be building a geothermal generator on that one. I'm just trying to see if there are some others near here. There's one here. Okay. And there's one here. That's too far. Okay, well, I'm thinking that their primary steam geysers are going to be this one over here and this one over here because, yeah, and they'll be on either end of the base. That's kind of what I'm picturing in my head right now, and I guess we'll see where that will take us. So that'll kind of influence how I plan out the base from here on out. So base planning. Every time you start RimWorld, you should be doing base planning. It's just very important. You want to have an idea of what everything is going to look like before you start building, or else, you know, you're going to end up with like a disorganized mess. Tend to be more of an organized person, so I like to plan. So we're going to plan things out here. Um, I don't mind having this kind of farther away, and we can build like a wall around it later. So I'm going to start building like this. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to split my base in half. Now, this is just what I like to do. I'm sure I'm going to get lots of judgment. This is what I find works for me. If something else works for you, that's great, but this is what I think works for me. Also, RimWorld has a great soundtrack. It's just beautiful. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to split my base in two, where I have one side of my base that is for storage, and I have the other side of my base that's I call my production side. And the reason I like to do that is because it gives me at least one opening on each side to expand each room that I create. And that's just how I like to do it. I don't like to have to change things around too much. But I will explain that there are basically three different concepts, three different kind of philosophies when building bases in RimWorld. So one is some people like to build into the mountain, kind of Dwarf Fortress style, where if you selected a mountainous region, you dig in through here and you use this rock area as your base. Some people like to do it that way. A pro to that is you're not going to have a lot of fires. It's really easy to defend. And yeah, you're just going to have a lot of reinforced wall. The other problem is you're very prone to what's called infestations, which comes from these insect-like alien creatures that come and try to kill your people. So that's kind of the pro and con. Those are the main pros and cons to that. Another way that people like to build is village style, where they'll have each room is its own individual building. The pro with that is you'll have lots of room to expand. It's really great. Con with that is it's really hard to defend, because you're going to have to build lots of different structures, because people are going to come to raid you from here, from north, south, east, and west, and you're going to have a lot of different defensive structures. Now, a middle ground, which is my favorite, is the one big gigantic structure, usually built out of wood, because wood is just an easy commodity at the beginning. But I'm sure that'll change as well. So we're going to be building it out of marble and granite later on, as I kind of explained in the beginning, but we can't afford to do that right now. So anyway, I have the game paused, just so you know. Time is not running, and we're going to build out our base. So the first room that I'm going to plan for is the hospital, and I think we're going to build the hospital right along here. Okay, so right about here. So the hospital, I like to plan it like this. I'm going to have a bed, okay, and a hospital bed takes up 2. I'll actually explain what the hospital is in a second. That's where there's going to be something called a vitals monitor. Then there's going to be a bed, okay. Then I would have a pathway here for people to get through, a bed, a vitals monitor, a bed, and plan for maybe a lamp right here, and maybe one here, just so it's kind of symmetrical. Okay, so that would be my starting hospital. Also a pathway to get in, so you're not blocked out. So this is my floor plan for my starting hospital. Now, the reason that I did that is because I'm planning to have 4 hospital beds at the start. But as you can see, I will have room to expand out this way and add more hospital beds, and this will be kind of like a path throughout it. Okay, I know this isn't the most efficient. I'll get into efficiencies in a second, but this is what works for me, and it might not work for you. But anyway, So, yeah, the hospital is important for when you go out into combat and you get shot up and you need your doctors to heal you. Hospitals help because they typically reduce infection rates and they typically heal people faster. Another reason for a hospital is when you get diseases that come about. Hospitals make it really easy to take care of sick people. So that's what the hospital is for. Now, the entrance to the base is going to be like right here. Okay, that's going to be the entrance to the base. I like to put my hospital near the entrance to the base because people typically will be fighting right here, and then they'll need to be rushed to the hospital as quickly as possible. So that's why you want your hospital near the entrance. You don't want it in the middle over here where they're going to have to walk down this long hallway and the guy might die before he actually gets to the bed. So every second counts. Anyway, that's the hospital. The second building that I like to build right next to it, we're gonna leave a space for a wall, is the kitchen. So we're gonna have a stove, and we're gonna have a chair, and we're gonna have. Actually, we're gonna want to build it one out. So we're gonna have a stove here, typically with a stool for workers. We're going to have a path in between. We're going to have another stool and another stove. And then typically we're going to have some shelves, like right there. That's what I plan for now. That might not be the best idea because we're going to be expanding out a specific. Oh, okay, I got it mixed up. That's why I was so confused. Sometimes you really got to think about where you're placing things. I'm actually going to place the stove like this. I'm going to put the chair here. I'm going to put the path here. Chair here. Stove like that. Shelving unit like that. Shelving unit like that. Because we're going to be expanding out this way. I can add more stoves and shelves. More stoves and shelves as need be. We're also going to need a lamp. So that's going to be our current layout for our kitchen. Kitchens are good for cooking. They're obviously very essential to the lifestyle of your colonists. You're going to want to build a kitchen pretty soon. So yeah, that's where the kitchen is. Next thing we're going to need is a dining room, because if your colonists stand and eat too much, they get really upset. So we're going to need to build a dining table. So typically I like to build my dining table like this. It's going to be 2, and then we're going to have chairs surrounding it like this, okay? Then we're going to have a path, and we're going to have... you really got to use your imagination when you're building this out to have a full understanding. And then I like to leave some room for statues and stuff, which we're going to leave... I don't know. That's probably a good amount of room right there. And then we'll have torches and stuff. Okay. That's probably a good size for a beginning dining room. So that's going to be our dining room. Now, the biggest room in the game, the rec room, and I actually have to really think about this. This doesn't mean that these plans are set in stone. We might change them up, but it's good to have a specific layout. Okay, so typically we're going to have a horseshoe pin right here, and the horseshoe pin requires 5 spaces behind it in order for colonists to throw horseshoes at it. Another thing we're going to need is the chess table, which I'll put right here. Actually, we could put it right beside. Let's be space efficient. That'll be about as much room as we need for the chess table. And then we're going to need the poker table. Actually, I don't like this. I like having a space between, just for aesthetic reasons. So then we're going to need the poker table, which is going to have that many seats, and that's the actual table. So now we have 3, okay, pieces of recreation here. And then we're going to need the billiards table, which is, I think, a 5x6. I should have wrote these down before, but I didn't. We're going to need a 5x6, I think, for the billiards table. Okay, so that's going to be where the billiards table goes. And, oh yes, the biggest part of the rec room is the mega screen television, which I'm actually just going to look at my notes here. So, yeah, the mega screen television, which you're eventually going to get very late game. As you could tell, I'm planning, actually the billiards table is a 4x5, so let's fix that. As you can see, I'm even planning for my end game, like right now, which is, I would say, is very smart to do. Okay, so the actual mega screen is 1x3, and the viewing area is a 7x6. So we're gonna create a 7x6 area like this, and I think it goes like, yeah, I think that's good. And then we're gonna save some room for like statues and stuff. Just add 2 extra spaces for good measure. And this will be our rec room, at least the beginnings of our rec room. Very big room, as you can tell. So I'm going to explain kind of recreation in a sense. Recreation is very important. Your colonists get bored, they get stressed, and they need some things to do to unwind other than having sex with each other, which they do. So a horseshoe pin is kind of like the basic thing that you're going to get, and it's just they throw horseshoes. There's also a chess table. They play chess, which actually also increases their intellectual skills. There's also the billiards table, which it's like a poker and billiards table thing, as well as a poker table. Another piece of recreation which will not go in the recreation room, but will instead go outside, is the telescope, so they can look up at the stars and stuff. And the best form of recreation is television. So you start out with a basic television, and then you'll move up to a flat screen and a mega screen. Be careful when building your television, because you are going to want to build like a have 3 tiles for the actual television itself, and then you're going to need like a 7x6 area, 1 tile in front of it, 2 tiles in front of it, for the actual viewing area. So that's what I've built here with this 24x7 recreation room. Okay, so after the recreation room, I typically want to start, that's where I want to usually have my that's where I typically want to have my bedrooms. So what I like to do for bedrooms, in order to have a good expansion, a good way to expand them, is I like to have like a 3x3 or a 3x, I guess, 7 area in this case, as a hallway with walls on either side. And then I like to build a 5x5 bedroom. And I build it kind of like this. Okay, I build it in little apartment complexes. So I typically build 6, not right off the bat, but I plan for 6 initially. And these are the bedrooms here. And what I have here is a hallway. And that's going to grant us access to other bedrooms in the future. So it'll make more sense when I actually build it out, but this is typically what I do. I kind of encircle. It's not the most space effective, I know, but I think it looks nice. It's pretty aesthetically pleasing. So Yeah, this is typically what I start out with, and then we're going to be building more kind of apartments further on. Okay, so that's the houses. After the houses, I like to build my panic room. So the panic room is a room where if all hell breaks loose and you're really starting to lose colonists, and you just really can't handle the raid that you're going through, I like to build a little room that some of my weaker colonists can go into and hide from the raiders. I fortify the crap out of this room, and I give those colonists typically pump shotguns. When we get into weaponry, I'll explain the specific weapons that you should be using and the weapons that you really should not be using, but we'll get into that in a later episode. So, yeah, what I like to do is I like to have 4 walls. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's where we're going to start. Yeah. So I like to have 4 walls on every side of the panic room, and I usually make those walls made out of granite so that people can't bust them down. Yeah, and so that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to start it here. This is where the panic room will start. I like to have enough room for, let's say, a nutrient paste dispenser, and actually, I think a nutrient paste dispenser is like, oh man, I'm trying to think of, it's about that. We'll plan for that at least right now. And I like to have some, this is where I typically put my batteries, my backup supply of electricity, and then I have some volt switches. It's also a good idea to have some beds and stuff. But I think that's all we're going to be planning for, at least. We can expand it later out this way if we need. Okay, so 10 by 6, that's probably a good area for a panic room. Yeah. I'm just gonna, I'm not going to. Okay. So, and then I like to leave 4 walls out this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll start the next room, which is the warehouse. The warehouse, I would call it. This is where you're going to have all of your workbenches and stuff. Typically, I like to start out, just trying to think. Typically, I like to start out like that. Actually, one more. Yeah, and I like to go about to 22. Quite a big room. So your warehouse is going to be where you do all your production. So you're going to have your workbenches. This is where you're going to synthesize drugs. You're going to build weaponry. You're going to make stone blocks, and you're going to make clothing. This is basically the economic powerhouse of your RimWorld. This is the thing that's going to make you money with traders, all that. This is basically your downtown, if you want to think of it that way. Okay. Next up, I think the last one of the last rooms that we're going to be building is the laboratory, which I typically build. This is where my high-tech research bench would go. This is where a multi-analyzer would go, and I would have kind of a two. Is it a? I think that's a research bench. Okay. A 7x7 for the laboratory is probably a good starting laboratory. So the laboratory is where you do all your research. So they did change the research tree, I think, since I last played this game. So that'll be something I'm going to have to learn on my own as well. But this is where you research all the things that are really important to advance your RimWorld until you get to the end game, which you're trying to build a ship to get off the planet. And that's all this stuff over here. Okay, so that is typically the layout that I use for all my rooms. Hopefully I'm not forgetting any rooms. If I am, I will fix it in the next episode. It's not really a big deal. So we're going to build a main hallway. I like to do a 3 by whatever, however long the base is. And don't worry, we're not going to be building all of this right now. We're going to be building it in steps, and you'll see as we progress. So that kind of concludes the production half of the base. It's what I call it, the production half, where things get done. And now we're going to be looking at more the idle half of the base, which is the storage units. So at the front, this is where I like to put my first storage unit, which is known as the freezer, and arguably the more important of the two. I like to make it basically as long as the hospital to the dining room is, and I would say all the way down to about there, 25 by 22. That's probably good. So that's going to be my my freezer. Next, we're going to be building the other storage container, which works the same way, except it doesn't freeze things. It's just a regular storage unit, which I'm going to build. Let's do 25 by 22 again. Okay, so, and then in the middle here, usually what I do with this area is I build a greenhouse if I'm on a harder biome, but trust me, we won't need a greenhouse on the biome that we're currently on. So that's basically our base right now. I could go further into planning out our defenses. Maybe that would be a good idea. Maybe it would be a good idea to build out our defenses right now because, well, it's better to plan, to have a plan than not. Okay. So the next area that we're going to want to plan for is the courtyard. So the courtyard is, we're going to have two courtyards. We're going to have a courtyard here, and we're going to have a courtyard over here. The courtyard over here is going to be for farming, and we'll probably use this for farming too, honestly. So there are some basic crops that you're going to want to grow. These crops are typically, there's 5 that you want to start at the beginning. Corn, rice, potatoes, heel root, and cotton. Those are the 4 most important crops in the whole game, and they'll remain the most important throughout. They're basically, you know, the basic necessities. So I like to build, to start off, 7 by 7 plots, like so. We can make this a potato, that's fine. I will rename this zone as a good practice. Sorry, it always tends to take a while to load whenever you rename things. Sometimes when you open menus, RimWorld, I don't know, it takes a minute to open it. I don't know if that's just on my computer, but I have a pretty good computer, so I don't know why. So this is going to be potatoes. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Okay. I hope so. If not, then that's too bad. The next thing that we're going to want to build is corn. So this is going to be corn. Another little farm we're going to want to build is rice. So we're going to name this rice, and we'll make it rice. The next one is going to be... Oh, that's not going to work because this type of soil is stony, is actually rough granite. So we're not going to plant here actually. We can just start planting like this now. Okay, this is going to be heel root. Oh, we don't have a level 8 grower. That's what that was warning us about. So our current person on plants cannot actually plant heel root yet, which is going to set us back a little bit, but not too much. We'll be okay. And then the next thing we're going to want to plant is cotton. So we'll name this cotton. Oops. Cotton. Okay. So these are the first 5 plants we're going to need. And I guess now would be a good time to explain what different crops do. So potatoes and corn and rice are the things that you eat. They're the 3 basic crops that your colonists will eat, especially at the beginning of the game. So potatoes are... Here, I'm just going to turn down the game volume just a touch here. Okay, potatoes are kind of the in-between. So I would say it's like this. Corn, potatoes, rice is the pyramid, or the spectrum, where corn is on one end of the spectrum, rice is on the other end of the spectrum, and potatoes is the middle ground. So corn takes the longest to grow, but it is the most useful and will typically dominate the food crop you grow late game, because it has the most, it gives you the most calories per crop, so you'll get the most nutrients out of it. Potatoes, or rice, I'll explain the other end of the spectrum, it doesn't take long to grow at all. It's the fastest growing, but you don't get a lot of nutrients out of it. And potatoes is in the middle. You get kind of middle of the road, takes middle amount of time to grow, and it gives you the middle most nutrients. Eventually we're going to combine these all into one field, and it's just going to all be corn, because once we get a stable food supply, being able to grow things fast isn't as important as being able to grow nutrient-rich crops. Okay, heel root is a different kind of crop. You don't actually eat this. It turns into what's called herbal medicine, and it's kind of a B-grade medicine. It's not that great, but it's good for when people get shot and there's no infection. It's typically, it's very useful. Cotton is good because we're going to be making carpets out of cotton, so it gives you cloth, and from cloth you can make carpets, you can make attire, things like that. Carpets are good for specific rooms like your dining room, your rec room, and your bedrooms, because they're more beautiful and your colonists will like it more. But it's not good for hospitals and kitchens because it's not very clean. Anyway, this will make more sense as we go on. So hang in there. I know this might be a little bit too much. So now we're going to plan out our exterior walls. So these are going to be our defensive walls, and they're going to provide protection to our courtyard. So typically we're going to want to protect this, so we're actually going to build downwards like so. I like to leave let's leave that much space just to be safe, because I can never remember how much a geothermal generator takes up in space. So, and then we'll just build out like right next to this. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to want to plan for is mortars. Mortars, I believe, are like that. I have to look this up. I didn't think this through. Mortars. RimWorld. So basically we're planning our defenses. Late game defense requires something called mortars. Okay, I see. I remember how to lay these out now. Okay, and mortars are, they have this really long range. Like they're good at bombing things like over here, but they won't be so good at bombing things like close to them. So if people attack from here, it'll be good because we can just shell them to death. And we're going to build them right here. So they're a 2x2. And you typically have like one space between each of them. That's probably good. So that's where we're going to build our mortars. We might build more down here later, but we'll plan for 6 right now. Usually I like to have up to 12, depending on how many colonists I have. Okay. I would say we're also going to need a plan for a barn. And we'll probably put the barn in here for our animals. But we can always expand this if need be. Okay. So, okay, so there's a really cheap way to destroy enemies, and this is a very good piece of advice. It's by creating something called kill boxes. So what I like to do is I like to create a little bunker. So I typically will create a 3x3 bunker, like so, all the way down to here. It's quite a long one. And I like to, why is that so long? I guess that's just how it worked out. Okay, that's fine. I like to have little rat tunnels that go out here. Sorry, as I build this, it'll make more sense. So I like to have sandbags and barricades all down this wall here for my soldiers to be firing from. And then I like to create a little firing range that's usually, say, about 16 tiles long, like so. And basically what'll happen is all my enemies will be filtered into this big room, and I'll be firing at them like this. Now, this is where the cheese kind of comes into play. We create these little kill boxes, and what it ends up doing is it ends up killing people really efficiently. So 47, I believe that was, I have to look at that again. I like to look for the exact middle. I think it's this. And I like to have a little hallway as acting as a main entrance to the actual base. Which actually, I think, poetically was right in between my mortars. I did not plan for that. That's pretty cool. So this is going to be the main entrance to the base, and this is going to be where normal NPCs and my characters come through in order to enter and leave. So it's going to be for friendly folk. Yeah. So that's where people are going to normally enter. But in case of a raid, people are going to be entering like this. They're going to have to come in through here. And they're going to come through this kind of zigzag pattern, like so. So we're going to, sorry, I really have to think about how this looks or else I'll screw it up. Wait. Okay, it should be a 2, it has to be 2 wide for this to work. And you'll see why in a minute. And honestly, with how long this is, this might be good enough. Yeah, it's probably good enough. Okay, so as you can see, I have this little diagonal path, and I'm going to make the same thing on this side. And I think in between videos, I'm not going to make you sit through it. I'm going to add basically the exact same setup symmetrically on this side as well, as I'll have 2 entrances to the base. But I won't make you sit through that. I'll do that in between parts here. Okay, so just going to move this up to here. And we're gonna create the exact same thing, but it's gonna be opposite. So people are gonna actually have to. Well, I might have screwed this up. Oh, it's just a little screw up. They're gonna come in through there. Okay, and you'll see why in a minute. I'll explain it all in a second. But if you're following along, just do what I've done. Okay, so we're gonna have them come out through here. Okay, and like that. Okay, and then they're gonna be coming through here, and yes, this should work. Okay, so they'll be coming through here, have to work their way up there, come down here. Okay, let me explain. In this game, enemies are retarded, okay? They do not bust down doors because they think that doors are secure. They would rather go through openings in walls than go through doors. So they would rather, if there's a door here, a friendly NPC is going to come through the door. A non-friendly NPC would rather go around here and climb over this barricade to get in here. We can use this to our advantage, where we can always have an unlocked door right here that they could always enter through and we'd be very vulnerable. But instead, they're going to work their way through here. So along their way through here, we will place traps like this every diagonal. So they have to work through all these traps, and if they finally make it to here, they'll be so weak that we can easily pick them off. And I'm going to have turrets here and here, and I'm going to have my gunmen lined up here, and we're just going to make short work of them. Plus, when we have our mortars, they're going to be mortared, and then they're going to finally make it through all this. It's going to be a shit show. Welcome to the jungle, motherfucker. Like, yeah, like it's going to be bad for them, okay? Yeah, so that's kind of the plan. And I might end the episode here. So I will have this kind of solved for our next episode, where I'll have this on the opposite side pretty symmetrically. It might look a little bit different, but it's funny how we have a steam geyser here, so it should work pretty well. Anyway, that was planning for a base. Wow, it took like 45 minutes, so sorry that took so long. I was hoping to get a little bit into gameplay, but maybe I'll record another episode and upload it in a shorter time frame than my other one was uploaded. So anyway, thank you guys so much for supporting me and for yeah, just being cool and watching this video, making it through. I know I'm not the best at explaining things, so it's pretty ambitious for me to be doing a guide like this, but yeah, hopefully you like my ideas, and if you don't, well, that's fine. You can build your own thing. That's what's so great about this game. Anyway, yeah, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.